The fraud that took so the fraud is real.
Mhm.
The fraud that took place here is very real. And when you commit fraud, you get investigated, you get charged, you get prosecuted, you get arrested, and you go to jail. As an individual, you go to jail as an individual. The whole community, however, that you are part of and the whole city that you live in is not held responsible. The whole state you live in is not held responsible. That's the way things work in Minnesota. That's the way things work in the United States of America because, so the fraud is real. So the fraud is real. So the fraud is real. So the fraud is real.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. It's Tuesday, January the 27th, 2026. If you thought the chaos in Minneapolis was just a debate over borders, you aren't following the money. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Today we are exposing the Sanctuary RICO Gambit. So while the streets of Minnesota are teeming with signal-coordinated mobs, the DOJ has just dropped a nuclear bomb on the squad. President Trump announced yesterday that the DOJ is officially investigating Ilhan Omar amid a staggering 3,500% spike in her net worth. Oh. Can you imagine? Isn't it amazing? I saw a chart the other day that showed that Nancy Pelosi herself had a better stock picking track record than the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett. Yes, Warren Buffett should be taking stock picking advice from Nancy Pelosi. But let's zero in on Ilhan Omar today. We're talking about a congresswoman who entered this country with nothing and is now reportedly worth as much as $44 million. How does that happen on a public servant's salary? We're going to follow the trail from the Somali fraud rings hollowing out Minnesota to the shadowy business deals in her husband's name. But it's not just the left that we're watching. We have to talk about the betrayal from within. Over the weekend, we watched DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and FBI Director Kash Patel gaslight the American gun owner. Noem called Alex Pretty, who was a licensed permit holder, a domestic terrorist. Now, while Patel was out telling the nation that you simply cannot bring a firearm to a protest. Wrong. In Minnesota, it is the law. If you have a permit, you have the right. By criminalizing lawful carry, these officials are providing cover for the very mob tactics they claim to oppose. We're going to take a blowtorch to this anti-Second Amendment rhetoric today. And we're asking, why did Trump just bypass Noem to send Tom Homan to clean up the mess? Coming up in the second hour, we've got Camelia Peterson joining us to dissect the total meltdown at DHS. She's been one of Noem's most vocal critics, and she's here to tell us why the secretary's time might be running out. And in a special preview, we're welcoming Mylene Salabaria, the host of the upcoming show Cafecito Libre, right here on the For Liberty Network. As the Minneapolis siege mirrors the tactics of communist regimes, Mylene is giving us a sobering warning. She's predicting that as the Trump administration squeezes the global narco dictators, Cuba may be the next domino to fall. Is liberty finally coming to Havana while it's under threat in Minnesota? We're going to find out. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Are you tired of watching history through a screen while modern-day redcoats try to tax your very existence? Then it's time to stop complaining, guys, and start marching. This May, the Peterson Vanguard is descending upon Boston. We're going to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the revolution that started it all. We're going to stand where Sam Adams plotted, walk the ground where the first shots of defiance rang out, and probably get kicked out of at least one historical tavern for talking too loudly about the Second Amendment. It's going to be a weekend of history, high-proof spirits, and the kind of fellowship you can only find among people who actually understand that shall not be infringed wasn't a suggestion. Now, listen up. If you're one of Peterson's patriots, you already know the drill. You don't pay full price for freedom. You get your 20% discount as usual. Just use that special secret, super secret discount code you've got tucked away in your arsenal of liberty, okay? Don't be the guy who stays home watching the Schumer shutdown on C-SPAN. Be the patriot who stands in the cradle of liberty and reminds the world that the fire still burns. Head to forlibertyshop.com right now to secure your spot. It's time to leave. The train's going to leave the platform soon, guys, so get on that trip so we can get your tickets ordered. Head to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. And use that Peterson's Patriots discount if you're already a monthly supporter. And for all of our Peterson's Patriots out there, let's give it a shout to our Peterson's Patriots. My heart goes out to you. Oh, welcome to the Wake Up America show. Don't forget to click that like button as well. When you click that like button, it helps us to get more people's feeds. When you click the follow button, then you'll get a notification when we go live, which is every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show schedule. Let's get it on.
I just investigated Ilhan Omar's official financial disclosures, and what I found was so dark and criminal. I don't know how she gets out of this without going to jail. Have a look at this. Here's Ilhan Omar's financial disclosure from the Congressional Record, year 2023. I want to bring your attention to this company right down here, Est Crew LLC. This is a winery in Santa Rosa, California. It's not doing that well. The total value of the winery is listed at $15,000, and Ilhan Omar's barely making any money off of it at all. Hardly enough to pay a parking ticket. Okay, that's fine. Nothing really mysterious there. Businesses fail all the time. But go ahead and look at her filing for 2024, and you'll find that Est Crew Winery, the same company in the same location, is now worth $5 million. That's incredible, up from $15,000. And now Ilhan Omar's making enough to pay rent. So this must be one of the most successful companies ever. Let's go ahead and check in on this winery. You know, maybe we could buy some wine. I like wine. Why not? Let's see if we can buy some Est Crew Winery. Here's Est Crew's social media Facebook page. You'll see here that the last post, oh no, was in 2023. Wasn't this the year that they were supposed to, go really big and make Ilhan Omar millions of dollars? Same thing on their Instagram, and they don't have an X. So let's go ahead and check their official website. What is Est Crew? We are winemakers and memory curators, okay? Est Crew Winery has a bunch of brands that's led by these people, creators of eye-catching labels. So I'm sure I can go and get some of their wine, right? Well, they don't have any activities here, so maybe I could just go to their location and buy some of their wines, or maybe give them a call. Let's try and go to their location here. This is the Google Street View of Est Crew Winery, and what you'll find here is an empty parking lot. Doesn't actually look like an operational business. It certainly isn't the same name. So, okay, let's go ahead and give them a call. See if maybe they pick up. Let's go ahead and call the number on the webpage. Let's go ahead and give them a call and find out. Oh no, user busy. Let's try that. Okay. Well, I've done this like 20 times today. Okay, so that didn't work. Is there any wine in this wine company? Is there anything about wine? Because I see like stuff about events, but like, what is this exactly? Aren't you supposed to sell wine at your wine company? Where are your wines? Oh, there are no wines. You want to know why? Because this is a fake company. Rep. Ilhan Omar's husband accused of swindling investors in their California winery. They stole millions from cannabis growers.
Guys,
see,
it's time for a crackdown. If you thought that the chaos in the streets of Minneapolis was just a local protest over immigration, you are being fed a lie designed to keep you from seeing the largest public program heist in the history of the United States. We aren't just talking about a few $1 million. We are talking about a staggering $9 billion in taxpayer funds diverted from hungry children and the disabled into the hands of a sprawling, state-sponsored criminal enterprise. U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson didn't mince words when he called Minnesota the national poster child for public corruption. While Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison were busy signaling their virtues, federal investigators were busy counting the bodies, metaphorically and literally. Look at the Feeding Our Future scandal. 78 suspects indicted. Look at the feeding our future scandal. 78 suspects indicted, dozens already pleading guilty. We have defendants like Mohammed Ismail, who was just sentenced to 12 years and ordered to pay $47 million in restitution. Only $75 million has been recovered because the rest was blown on luxury hotels, overseas investments, and wired directly to terrorist networks in East Africa. More on that later. This isn't just theft. This is financial hollowing out of a sovereign state by a group that views your tax dollars as a war chest for global instability. Here's the Ilhan Omar question. While the people of Minneapolis are struggling and dying in the streets because of their officials, the elite of Minnesota are thriving. President Trump officially announced Monday that the DOJ is investigating Representative Ilhan Omar. He's pointing at a ledger that shows a 3,500% increase in her net worth. Omar, who famously arrived in this country with nothing, is now reportedly worth over $44 million, and her husband is accused of defrauding investors in California, and we just saw the report from Benny Johnson on that wine business that looks fake as hell. So how does a congresswoman on a fixed government salary pull it off, right? You follow the husband, Tim Minette. His firm, Rose Lake Capital, miraculously jumped in value from $1,000 to $25 million in a single year. His winery, St. Croix Wines, jumped from $15,000 to $5 million. Most successful business in history. At least 3 individuals tied directly to Omar have been indicted in these fraud schemes. She claims this is a disinformation campaign, but Chairman James Comer and the Oversight Committee in the House are asking the only question that matters. How is it possible for a net worth to explode like this while your own district becomes the epicenter of a multi-billion-dollar fraud ring? The DOJ is looking for the link between the signal mobs in the streets and the millions in the bank accounts. If the receipts match the rhetoric, the squad is about to face a very different kind of justice. But the money needs protection, and that's why the streets of Minneapolis have been turned into a paramilitary zone. The protests impeding ICE agents aren't organic. They are a coordinated criminal conspiracy fueled by encrypted apps like Signal. Federal investigators believe that these mobs are a smokescreen designed to protect the fraud infrastructure from federal raids. The DOJ has already secured RICO convictions against the Heist gang in Minneapolis. That's a violent criminal enterprise that used murder and intimidation to control the streets. And make no mistake, the administration is looking at the Signal mobs through that same RICO lens. If you coordinate the obstruction of a federal officer to protect a criminal ring, you are a racketeer, not a protester. Trump has seen enough, and he has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to quickly put an end to the travesty of professional agitators attacking federal officers. He's calling out Tim Walz and Jacob Frey as a modern-day segregationist governor for refusing to allow federal agents into local jails, forcing these dangerous street confrontations that led to the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Priddy. If the local police won't enforce the law, Trump is signaling that the military will, and it seems that last night, Governor Walz finally cracked and appeared to send in the local police officers to do arrests.
You are now under arrest. Please sit down and wait for instruction.
I'm at level 12 news.
I can't hear you.
I'm at level 12 news. BG on the scene. I've just pressed.
You don't have any press credentials?
I don't. I can show you
On January 19th, Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri introduced the SCAM Act, the Stop Citizenship Abuse and Misrepresentation Act. The White House-backed bill would expand federal authority to strip citizenship from naturalized Americans convicted of felony fraud, serious felonies, or joining terrorist organizations. Schmidt was explicit in his statement, the rampant fraud uncovered in Minnesota must be a wake-up call. We were talking on this show last week. Citizenship should come with a list of caveats. If you want to move to the United States, you have to agree that you're not going to come here and be the head of a criminal fraud ring. Otherwise, you might lose your citizenship and get sent back to Somalia. The United States of America is not Jesus. You don't get saved and then just get to stay forever and continue to sin. So if you lied on your oath, or if you used your citizenship as a shield to wire taxpayer billions to Al-Shabaab, your time in this country is over. President Trump has sidelined Kristi Noem and sent Border Czar Tom Homan directly to Minneapolis to take over ICE operations. Probably wise, considering some of the comments that Kristi Noem has been making in recent days. Tom Homan will be reporting directly to the president, not Noem. This is a reset. It's a move to refocus on criminal targets and shut down the Metro Surge chaos. We're seeing a pincer movement. Homan on the streets, Schmidt in the Senate, and the DOJ at the bank. Wake up, America. The era of the Sanctuary scam is hitting a brick wall. Wake up, America. If you want to know why the federal government is moving with such lethal force in Minnesota, you have to follow the money. And that money doesn't stop at state lines. We are talking about the Hawala pipeline, an ancient, shadowy money transfer system that bypasses every bank, every regulator, and every oversight committee in the Western world. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has officially opened a formal investigation into whether your tax dollars stolen through these fraud schemes are being used as a war chest for Al-Shabaab. Federal counterterrorism sources have confirmed that millions of stolen dollars have been funneled through little Mogadishu storefronts directly into the hands of Al-Qaeda-linked terrorists in East Africa. One confidential source told investigators the largest funder of Al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. Think about that while you're paying your property taxes. In 2023 alone, the Somali diaspora sent back $1.7 billion, more than the entire budget of the entire Somali government. U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson has revealed these fraud rings are staggering, industrial-scale operations that form a web of corruption. They didn't just overbill the taxpayers. They created purely fictitious companies to buy luxury real estate in Nairobi and Turkey. That moves this case from simple welfare fraud to material support for terrorism. This is the RICO enterprise that justifies the federal hammer, because you didn't just steal, you funded the enemies of Western civilization. How did they get away with this for so long? Well, they used the nonprofit protection racket. We now have the expletive-filled text messages from Amy Bach, former director of Feeding Our Future. This is the organization that's at the heart of a $250 million conspiracy. When site operators complained about missing payments, Bach didn't call an auditor. She called her lawyer to terrify them with subpoenas. She would literally text her associates, and I quote, "She is the only problem you guys are having, so she needs to be handled. We may have become the mob." And she was right. This wasn't a charity. This was a paramilitary-style organization designed to rule the world, or at least Minnesota. They used scorched earth tactics against critics, while Bach herself reportedly pocketed nearly $2 million in the scheme. And look at the tactics. Bach and her team, they used fake meal counts and doctored rosters to claim that they were serving thousands of meals a day from dilapidated storefronts that didn't even have a kitchen. The DOJ is now investigating whether the signal mobs that are currently attacking ICE agents in the streets are the enforcement arm of this same nonprofit mafia. So if the money stolen from the USDA paid for the bricks being thrown at federal officers, every single person in that signal chat is a racketeer in the eyes of the law. Arrest, denaturalize, and deport. Finally, we have to talk about the men who let the vault be emptied. Chairman James Comer and the House Oversight Committee have officially widened their investigation into Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison. They're called to testify on February the 10th to answer for what Comer calls a breathtaking failure of leadership. State lawmakers have testified under oath that Walz and Ellison ignored warnings for years and actually retaliated against state employees who tried to blow the whistle. Coma revealed a bombshell audit showing that Walz's Department of Human Services actually backdated and fabricated documents to mislead federal auditors after the fraud was uncovered. They awarded $680,000 to a grantee for 1 month of work with zero evidence that any work was ever performed. The DOJ is now looking at a criminal acts and failure to act theory. While Walz was giving free healthcare and free college to illegals, he was allegedly firing the officials who were slated to testify about the fraud occurring under his watch. By making Minnesota a sanctuary state, Walz didn't just open the borders, he opened the bank accounts of every hardworking American to an international criminal conspiracy. Wake up, America. The sanctuary wasn't for the vulnerable. It was for the thieves, and the reckoning, hopefully, is finally here. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Click that like button. We'd love to have you be a regular guest on the Wake Up America show. So click the follow button as well. Certainly feels like we got a lot of wind in our sails these days over here on the For Liberty Network. I don't know if you guys follow our socials, but a lot of the clips that we've been posting from the Wake Up America show have been just absolutely blowing it up. We've even been making like a little bit of money, like many dollars, several dollars, posting the clips from the Wake Up America show, which is really the dream. Help us today by supporting the show. Clicking the like button is a totally free way to do so, and clicking the follow button as well. If you are a regular guest of the Wake Up America show, will you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise? Please.
Can you suck it?
Excuse me? Bless us with something. Help us to unlock today's bonus content. Yeah, sevens of dollars, BB for Liberty is saying. It's better that making sevens of dollars and gaining some followers from our show clips is better than what it used to be, which is losing followers and losing money for the time we spent uploading it. So we're on the right path. Support the For Liberty Network in our mission. Drop a Rumble Rant donation if you're live on Rumble right now. If you maybe gift a subscription to somebody in need, bless them with something money-wise. And when you do, it goes to unlock the bonus content. The Wake Up America show is fun because we have a whole choose-your-own-adventure aspect to it with these two phases of bonus content. If we raise $100 on the Wake Up America show, then that means that we're going to play for you a mini documentary instead of playing our commercials when we go to our guest. If we raise $200, then we suddenly turn into a game show and everybody competes against each other for real prizes from the Grift Shop. We call it Liberty Loot Live. It's really fun. So make your contribution today. And if you make a purchase at the Grift Shop during the live show, all of those purchases go to help unlock that bonus content. So head on over to forlibertyshop.com, taste our delicious Founding Flavors coffee. When you're at forlibertyshop.com, our Founding Flavors coffee, the Jeffersonian Java is the top seller. But my recommendation to you when you go to the coffee page at forlibertyshop.com is that you try the whole bundle of the top 3 picks. My top 3 favorites, which are absolutely delicious, which is Jeffersonian Java Jeffersonian Java, Thomas's Painkiller, and Franklin's Electric Elixir. So head over to forlibertyshop.com, make a purchase during the live show, unlock the bonus content, support the For Liberty Network. You give some, you get some. Get some.
Shoot! Motherfucker! Shoot!
To the back of the barricade.
What that bitch did, nigga? Fuck you talking about, man? Hey, shit! They shooting me in the paintball. Oh, shit!
Oh, shit! Oh. Love seeing Entropy Nomad, Quest Fanning, BB for Liberty, all of our friends over in the chat. St. Selma, thank you very much. She says, Wisconsin needs examination too. Governor Evers just stated that the undocumented farm workers are what's keeping our economy afloat, and they must not lose their Wisconsin homes. Interesting. Thank you very much for that $5 donation, by the way, St. Selma. Bruiser55 loves the loves the Founding Flavors coffees. Which one's your favorite?
Hey, so they're gonna kill us anyway, so I think maybe we should just mob them. If you comply, they're gonna shoot you. If you try to leave, they're gonna shoot you. Mob them, like that. Like full American Revolution, like hiding in trees. I don't know.
Try it, bitch. Try it. Dude, just... You know what happens to pretty little white girls like you? You know what happens to pretty little white girls like you? This is what happens to pretty little white girls like you when you try that. When you F around, this is what happens. This is the finding out. She F's around, and guess what? She finds out. Oh no, the liberal white lady. No, not the enemy of civilization. Here we go. Here's the slow motion replay. Here's a person that would send you to the camps. Send you to the camps. Oh, get up. No, not a pretty little white girl. Speaking of sending to camps, why do we have the differently abled people, I guess, are on our team?
I'm with them over there.
Yeah. What's your formal comment about ICE?
My formal comment about ICE is that the ICE should gas the immigrants. They should send them to the gas chambers.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
I'm with them over there.
All right, guys. See, Royber says keep being awesome. Entropy says sheriffs in Arizona sent a strongly worded letter to the AG regarding her endorsement of shooting law enforcement officials with the stand your ground law. Action, not words, Republicans. Amen. Thanks, Entropy. Oh, such a beautiful thing. Mighty Megatron, R-Volt 24, and Quest Fanning. A lot of finding out going on in Minnesota. There definitely needs to be some finding out going on in other parts of the country as well. Here's a woman who decided to F around by grabbing, well, what amounts to a grenade, but we call a flashbang.
Medic.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh.
They're effing around. Oh! Oh! Where's that meme of Donald Trump where he's like flailing his arms around like he's special needs, and he's like, I grabbed the flashbang. I grabbed the flashbang because I thought it wouldn't go off in my hand. I'm retarded. I can't help it. Do I sound like an evil villain? Have I become the bad guy?
No, God! No!
Because I'm the bad guy.
No!
Well, I was fine until you murdered Charlie Kirk. Now it's on, bitch. Now it's war. Now we fight, and now we raise the black flag. Wake up, America. We are currently witnessing the most dangerous gaslighting operation in modern American history, and it's coming womp, 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 womp from the government. For 48 hours, we've heard DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and FBI Director Kash Patel spin a tale about the death of Alex Priddy. Noem called him a domestic terrorist, and Patel called him a criminal for carrying a loaded gun at a protest. They want you to believe that if you show up to a public space with a firearm to observe your government, you've forfeited your right to life. But the tea leaves are starting to turn sour for the secretary. So while she was on Fox News trying to convince you that an ICU nurse was an assassin, President Trump was quietly picking up the phone to call Tom Homan. And on Monday, the axe dropped. Homan, not Noem, was dispatched to Minnesota. The border czar has been sent in to clean up the blood and the bureaucratic bodies left behind by a secretary who clearly doesn't understand the Constitution that she swore to protect. Noem is underwater, her department is under siege, and Kash Patel is out here redefining the Second Amendment on the fly. Let's talk about Kash Patel. The man in charge of the FBI sat on Maria Bartiromo's couch and told the nation, quote, "You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. No, Kash. No.
What can you tell us? Great to be with you, Maria. And look, Secretary Noem stated it perfectly. You do not get to attack law enforcement officials in this country without any repercussions. You do not get to do that in Minnesota, LA, or anywhere else. And the interagency is leading the charge out there. We've already arrested with the interagency those that violated the FACE Act and impeded a peaceful prayer in church. We've already just last night arrested 4 more individuals involved in the damage of government property that we saw the videos of online. We've arrested other individuals who've made threats to law enforcement online. So we are not messing around. It doesn't have to be in person. If you threaten law enforcement officials or civilians, we are going to come find you. And as for this latest shooting, yes, DHS and HSI are the lead, and the FBI is processing the physical evidence. So we're in possession of the firearm, which is going to go to our laboratory. But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. That is not a peaceful protest, and you do not get to touch law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
But how was he threatening Border Patrol? You've collected the evidence, you said, right? You have the handgun in your possession?
That's right.
And how was he using that handgun in terms of threatening Border Patrol? What was the threat? He had his camera, right? He was filming it.
That's something that I will let the DHS and the prosecutors, because they are the ones investigating that case. I don't want to stylize that evidence.
Yeah, we'll see about that. So he says you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to a protest you want. Is that simple? It's not simple. It's, in fact, stupid. In Minnesota, under statute 624.714, a permit holder can lawfully carry a pistol in public. There is no protest exception. There is no multiple magazine exception. The Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus called Patel's comments completely incorrect, and they're being charitable. When the top law enforcement officer in the country tells you that exercising a God-given, constitutionally protected right is inciting violence, he isn't protecting the law. He's very nearly criminalizing the very act of being an armed citizen. Now, I'm not supporting this guy tussling with LEO. The details of that struggle are still emerging, and you don't win a fight with Border Patrol in this street. But if we let Kash Patel define the Second Amendment, we also don't have a Bill of Rights. We have a Bill of Permissions that can be revoked the moment a federal agent gets jumpy. And then there's Kristi Noem. She didn't just misstate the law. She smeared a dead man without a shred of evidence. She claimed that Priddy approached officers with a gun. She claimed he wanted to perpetuate violence for ideological reasons. She labeled him a domestic terrorist before the ballistics report was in. But the videos show Priddy holding a cell phone. The videos show him holding a cell phone. Witnesses in sworn statements say he was trying to help a woman up, not massacre agents. Noem's rhetoric has caused a rift within her own department. Insiders at DHS are already calling this a terrible miscalculation that has damaged the agency's credibility, and Trump knows it. By sending Tom Homan to Minnesota to be the point person, Trump has effectively sidelined Noem. He's signaling that the adults are back in the room because the secretary has lost her grip on the facts and the trust of the Second Amendment base. Even Thomas Massie fired back, reminding this administration that carrying a firearm is not a death sentence. If you don't understand that, you have no business in government. And I agree with Massie. Wake up, America. If you're looking for a glimmer of hope in the frozen streets of Minneapolis, we finally have a headline that doesn't involve tear gas or tragedy. The New York Post editorial board dropped a piece that confirms what we've been saying all morning. There is a path to stop the Minnesota madness, and it starts with Tom Homan. So while Kristi Noem and Kash Patel were busy labeling nurses domestic terrorists and talking about why you can't carry guns to protests, despite all the evidence to the contrary, President Trump was making a move that matters. He dispatched the border czar to take care of the situation. Noem has effectively been elbowed aside. Her performance didn't serve the president, and it didn't serve the country. When the situation in Minnesota escalated, she turned it into a mouthpiece for incendiary rhetoric rather than a leader of an elite enforcement agency. So by putting Homan in charge, reporting directly to the Oval Office, Trump has bypassed the normal chain of command to bring in the one man who actually knows how to distinguish a violent criminal from a legal observer. So on Monday, Trump and Governor Walz had a call that both sides are calling productive. Walz finally stopped playing the victim and started acting like a governor. He called in the National Guard to act as a buffer between federal agents and the protesters. And look at the move on the ground. Greg Bovino, the Border Patrol commander, he's been ordered out of Minneapolis along with his specialized units. The Post pointed out something that the administration won't probably say out loud that many of these agents being surged into these cities aren't trained for crowd control. They're trained for arrest. So when you drop rural border patrol agents into the middle of a signal coordinated urban riot, you get a recipe for the disaster we saw with Alex Pretty. It'd be like dropping me with like a heavy, nice, long, heavy stick and a patriotic American shield into the middle of those people. It's gonna be a mess. Put me in a Captain America uniform and with a shield and a big stick in the middle of an Antifa crowd. You don't want to see what's going to happen. Trump says he's reviewing everything. He's listening to the public sentiment that shows 60% of independents think that these tactics have gone too far. So he's starting to back off a little bit. And before you freak out, I don't think that means that the deportations are going to slow down, but that he is probably making what amounts to be a cosmetic change in policy while sending in the toughest guy that he's got to enforce the law, Tom Homan. Nobody's going to mess with him. So Tom Homan is like a scalpel where everybody else has been something of a rubber mallet. So Noam is look like she's about to be deported from the cabinet. Somebody said. Jenny with a Y says Walls and Frey are at fault for the fatal shootings. Watching some of these lunatics, they're calling for suicide by cop. Absolutely agree, Jenny with a Y, and welcome to the Wake Up America show. Glad to have you here. I see people in the chat are talking a little bit about that famous SIG firearm that was being carried, and there are still some people who believe that that a negligent discharge was possible. I will refrain from commenting on that until more information will come out. But it is notable that the SIG 320 handgun has had hundreds of reports of negligent discharges, or not negligent, excuse me, but mechanical discharges without user operating. It is interesting to see the senator from Pennsylvania, Democratic Senator John Fetterman. He seems to be further right than half of the Republican Party when it comes to this. Take a listen to this.
Absolutely unacceptable, terrible, awful. ICE agents are just doing their job, and I fully support that. And for me, and people in my party might want to abolish it or treat them as criminals or anything that's inappropriate and outrageous. ICE performs an important job for our nation.
Interesting. Path to peace is on the table. Walls should take it. Noam, take a hike, and we should all get back to the business of a safe, sovereign nation. We'll be right back with more fun and a lot more truth on the Wake Up America show. Nice to see 123 people watching the show. How are you doing, guys? If today's your first time watching, we'd love to learn how you got here, how you found us. Say hello, come from out of the shadows and introduce yourself. We've got a lot of really interesting and fun and nice people in the chat. We'd love to have you participate with our community. So please hop into the chat and say hello. Jenny with a Y, dropping that American flag. God bless you. And God bless America. All right, Patriots, lend me your ears and your sense of adventure, because while the bureaucrats in D.C. are busy measuring the drapes in their federally funded cocoons, the rest of us are heading to the cradle of liberty to remind them who actually owns the lease on this country, we the people. This May, we're taking the Peterson Vanguard to Boston for the 250th anniversary of the Great American Upset, and it's going to be nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine standing on the very cobblestones where our forefathers decided that a tea tax was a good enough reason to start a riot, except this time the only thing that we're throwing overboard is the narrative of the corporate media. I don't think they'll let us throw any tea into the Boston Harbor, but maybe we'll sneak a little in anyway. We won't let them see us. We'll buy some Boston Harbor Black from forlibertyshop.com. We'll be toasting to the Bill of Rights, debating philosophy in the shadow of Faneuil Hall, and ensuring that the spirit of 1776 is louder and prouder than ever before. If you're tired of the Minneapolis madness and the constant gaslighting, this is your chance to recharge your patriotic batteries with the finest group of freedom lovers in the galaxy. And you'll remember us this trip for the rest of your life. For all of you loyal Peterson's Patriots. Don't forget, the rules of the rebellion still apply. You never pay retail for your revolution. You get your 20% off as usual. Just deploy that special secret discount code at your checkout to secure your savings. Come on, guys. Don't wait for the redcoats to knock on your door. Take the fight to the front lines of history. Visit forlibertyshop.com today. Grab your tickets and prepare to make Boston rowdy again. I'll see you there. The first toast is to liberty or death. Preferably liberty with a side of Boston clam chowder. forlibertyshop.com. Get moving, guys. Get your tickets today. We are so close to unlocking that bonus content. $82 raised towards the first level of the mini documentary. Don't you want to watch that instead of the commercials when we go to get Camellia here in just a few minutes, guys? Camellia Peterson. She's going to talk about Kristi Noem. And we're going to talk to Mylene Salavaria. Mylene Salavaria will be joining us live this morning at 8:30 on the Wake Up America show. She says that it's possible that her sources are saying that Cuba might be ready to fall in 6 months or less. We're going to be talking to Mylene Salavaria this morning about that at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. So if you guys are interested in hearing Mylene, then don't forget, make sure you stick around or come back at 8:30 because we're going to have Camellia first and then Mylene. About 15 minutes from now, we start our guest segments. Wake up, America. While the corporate media is busy crying about revenue loss and fiscal instability, the average American family is looking at their bank account and seeing something that they haven't seen in years. Results. So the IRS officially opened the 2026 filing season, and the projections are coming in like a lightning bolt to the heart of the deep state. We're talking about the largest tax refund season in U.S. history, thanks to the one big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cuts Act. The average refund is projected to skyrocket by $1,000 per filer. That's a 30% increase over the last year, folks. So while the Democrats in Congress voted unanimously against this bill, their constituents are about to receive an average check of over $4,000. That's the equivalent of 5 months of groceries or a massive down payment on a new life away from the high tax hellscapes of the blue states. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is calling it a gigantic year for working Americans. I call it the ultimate middle finger to the bureaucrats who thought they owned your paycheck. Now, here's the fun of all this. The reason these refunds are so massive is because the tax cuts were made retroactive to the start of 2025. Because the IRS didn't adjust withholding tables mid-year, the government's basically been holding your money hostage for 12 months, and now they have to pay it all back in one giant lump sum Trump check. We're looking at $91 billion in additional refunds flooding into the pockets of the American people in the next few months. And where is it going? It's going to the 80 million hourly workers who no longer pay a single cent of federal tax on their overtime pay. It's going to the 4 million tipped workers, the waitresses, the barbers, the bartenders, who are keeping every dollar of their tips tax-free. For a family of four making $73,000, your federal income tax liability is now zero. Let that sink in, zero. While the left-wing economists are going to scream about inflation, the guy at the end of the bar just got a $7,000 real wage increase. It turns out when you stop treating the American worker like a vending machine for the state, the economy actually grows. And look at the timing. As these checks start hitting mailboxes, Chuck Schumer is suddenly worried about the deficit. He's threatening a government shutdown because he doesn't want to fund the DHS, but we all know the truth. He's terrified of a happy American public. They want you dependent on a government EBT card. Trump wants you dependent on your own hard work. We've got the standard deduction jumping to over $32,000 for married couples. We got a new $6,000 bonus deduction for seniors that's going to save millions of retirees from having to choose between medicine or heat. This isn't just a tax cut. This is a transfer from the marble halls of D.C. back to the kitchen tables of Missouri, Iowa, and yeah, even Minnesota. So when you get that gigantic refund, remember who tried to stop it. Remember the politicians who told you that no tax on tips was populism while they were spending your money on signal mobs and Somali fraud rings. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? Man, it's awesome to see so many people joining us live on rumble.com. Have I just been on fire lately? What's going on, guys? The numbers are rising. It just feels like there's this energy surrounding the Wake Up America show. Like there's something different. Everybody's been saying it. Have you joined the For Liberty Network's Discord? Have you been hanging out and talking to people like Ian Haas and Bruiser 55 and Peter the Great, Quest Fanning, and so many of our friends hanging out over at forlibertynetwork.com? Where's the sense of optimism coming from? So many of my fellow libertarians are so black-pilled. But not our community. Our community is white-pilled all the way. We see the future for liberty, and we're making it happen. We're not waiting around over here at the For Liberty Network for somebody else to give us our liberty. We're taking it back. We're making it happen here. And isn't that really the secret? Wasn't that always the secret? There was this famous comic, I think it was a Stone Toss comic, where it showed the political quadrants, all four of them. And each one, it showed who they're blaming for the failures of their problems, the failures in their lives. And in the top left quadrant where the communists were, it was the capitalists. And with in the top right-hand corner, it was the conservatives blaming the Jews. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, it was the left libertarians saying, my dad. And in the bottom right-hand with the right-wing libertarians, it is the government is why we're a failure, right? Each quadrant blaming others for their own failures. Not here. Not these right libertarians. Not the people who watch the Wake Up America show. You're special. You really are part of a special group. We are a crew of, I mean, we're not pirates because we don't steal, but I guess we take our liberties, don't we? Think of us as patriotic mercenaries. I was trying to describe myself and what I do on the phone the other day with a potential supporter of the network, and I said, think of me as like the Han Solo of libertarianism. Could Luke Skywalker have targeted the Death Star's heat vents if he hadn't had Han Solo and Chewie on his side? No, but I mean, yeah, he used to bullseye womp rats in his T-34, and they're not much bigger than 2 meters, sure, but what about Han Solo? The For Liberty Network is the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy. Let's unlock that bonus content and support this cause. You guys have so much wind in my sails. Every dollar that you donate to the Wake Up America show during this live show goes to a greater cause, helps us to complete the Battle of Athens documentary, which is looking phenomenal. But I need to raise about $8,000 more to finish it. I've got to pay for some special effects, some graphics, some titles, some music. So pitch in today. Help us to finish that documentary. We are so close to a beautiful full-length, the first full-length documentary of my career and the one that will make the For Liberty Network shine like you have never, ever seen. Pitch in today. If you have the means and can donate $1,000 to the For Liberty Network today, I'm going to ask you to step up and do something incredible. Or if you want to join us in Boston, go to forlibertyshop.com right now and buy a ticket to the Boston tour. Or better yet, send cash. Go to wakeupamerica.com/support. And if life has blessed you with something,
Can you bless me with something?
then bless us with something. Help us to complete the Battle of Athens documentary strong. Head to wakeupamerica.com/support. Go to wakeupamerica.com. When you visit wakeupamerica.com, you're going to see the show page. Click on the support button there at the very top, and you'll see our one-time donation. Click to make a one-time donation. Drop $1,000 in there to help us to beat that Grinch that doesn't want us to succeed. Think about how many people don't want us to succeed. Guys, don't you want to show the haters that we were right, that we were building the future of liberty? Help me to do it. So go to wakeupamerica.com/support. Drop a cool grand. That'll unlock all the bonus content for now and the rest of the week. I'll make you a deal. If somebody donates $1,000 today, then you'll get free bonus content for the rest of the week. What do you say? Anybody out there want to do it? It makes a big difference. All right. Camelia Peterson will be joining us live in 5. We haven't hit phase 1 yet, so that means commercials, but don't be sad. We've got great commercials. We'll be right back with Camelia Peterson to talk about the exiting potential of stage left. of Kristi Noem. It's the Wake Up America show, and you're watching the 4 Liberty Network.
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at 4libertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at 4libertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the 4 Libert tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of "Don't Tread on Me" in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at 4libertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers, pronouns are mandatory, and Harvard can't define woman. Oh, and we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop 4libertyshop.com. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at 4libertyshop.com. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, Because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars.
I have no faith in this country. It's us. It's up to us to hold them accountable. We have to do it because clearly time and time again, they have proven themselves completely incapable of that.
I won't think there will be any accountability personally because I don't want to get my hopes up.
Currently, I don't believe that they're going to do anything about it because the administration's not going to want to do anything about it or take accountability for it. But I believe in the future when we squash these guys and get Trump his whole group of goons out of office, there will be justice and it will be swift and it will be powerful, hopefully.
I don't know about that. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm glad and thankful to have you here. Click the like button if you haven't already, and click the follow button just to spite whoever JC4316 in the chat who says, I am 2 of your 5 viewers and I am leaving you now. No. Hey, there are dozens of us. Dozens. Wake up, America. We're currently witnessing a high-stakes game of political gaslighting, and it's coming from inside the House. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and FBI Director Kash Patel have spent the last 48 hours telling the American people that Alex Priddy was a domestic terrorist and assassin because he was armed at a protest. Kristi Noem claimed Priddy approached officers with a gun. Kash Patel told Fox News he cannot bring a firearm to a protest, period, except, according to the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus and local law, they're wrong. In Minnesota, a public street is not a prohibited location for a permit holder, and carrying a firearm is not a death sentence. While Noem's DHS is underwater in the polls, President Trump has already dispatched border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota to clean up the mess. A clear signal that Noem's stance isn't sitting well at the top. Joining me now to dissect the mistakes, the misstatements, and the future of the DHS secretary is someone who's been talking very loudly about her online, Camelia Peterson. Welcome to the arena.
Good morning. I just have one question or a statement maybe, I didn't know this show was an airport.
You don't need to announce your departure, yeah. Siggy's mom was this beyond that joke too in the chat. Hi, Camelia. Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us here today. You've been on a tear against Kristi Noem in recent days, Camelia.
I mean, not just recent, but okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's your recent beef?
I mean, well, first of all, what I've said for the whole time, this whole year, is that we have a narrative problem in the administration, and it probably is the worst in the Department of Homeland Security, because Kristi Noem goes out there and just says crazy stuff, and it doesn't do anything to give the public any assurances. It's always very muddled and unclear. She gets stuff wrong. And so I've never been quite sure what qualified her for this position to begin with. She was a lackluster legislator when she was in Congress. And she's got her cred for her time as governor of South Dakota, but people give her lots of props for not closing things down during COVID. But I think probably the reality of that is that happened because the legislature pushed her into it, not because she was necessarily leading on it. So I don't know. I think that this has, when they talked about deportations and taking care of the immigration problem, the real focus, and from Trump himself even, was getting the criminals off of the streets. That was the first priority for all of these people coming into the country illegally. Yes, you're going to take care of the other things, but first and foremost, get rid of the violent criminals. And so somewhere along the way, we stopped talking about that. And so now the stories that are pervasive across social media and everywhere else are these stories of, just regular people, but who are here illegally, and they're not necessarily violent criminals. And yes, there have been criminals in these people, but there's still enough of these other stories that it really drowns out the good things that are being done. And a lot of it has to do with the messaging and the way Noem has handled the publicity.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, you seem to know a bit more about her than I do. But tell me about your response to the remarks that were made by Kash Patel regarding our Second Amendment rights. A lot of people are very unhappy about that as well.
Well, I think a lot of people on the right are unhappy about this because, especially after January 6th, right, to come right out and say, you're not a peaceful protester if you're showing up armed. I mean, that makes a lot of suppositions. And, the clip you played as we were coming in was really interesting to me because I was like, boy, the left sure sounds a lot like the right now, don't they? I mean, these are like the exact words that you would hear coming from people on the right, during the last administration. So it's ironic.
Yeah, it is.
It's weird, by the way, to hear the left being like somehow pro 2A now sometimes in this. Everything is upside down.
Well, the strangest thing is that this might be the one situation, the one instance when the left could actually blame the gun, but they choose not to do so. I don't know how much you have read about the issues surrounding the particular firearm that the protester was carrying. But if he was part of this Signal or organized group chats, then he might be more than just a protester. But the question surrounding this firearm, we joke in the gun community, my firearm has never gone off and killed someone by itself. My firearm just sits right there in the corner and never murders anyone. But in this one extreme case, it might have been a negligent discharge that might have led to this shooting. Do you think that changes anything?
I mean, I think that in a highly charged situation like that if you do have something go off and everybody, is, their trigger finger is ready because they're on edge, I can see where it is going to happen. I think the biggest problem with this is the context that we have set up that we get to this point. And so, one of the questions, I guess, that keep going through my mind when I see some of these videos and things is, am I seeing it correctly that the ICE men are in like brown Carhartt jackets and like they look like regular people, right? And so to me, I don't understand why they're not dressing in more of a uniform. And also, I guess the other question I would have is like, how do people know where they're going to show up? Like that, I guess, has always puzzled me. Like, how do they know like what neighborhood they're going to be in or where they're going to be targeting? Because I think that's a huge part of the approach problem that we're seeing under Kristi Noem's leadership and Bovina, I guess, the other Border Patrol guy that basically just is getting taken out. And, Homan is getting brought in. And so there's questions like that I think are probably strategic errors where a lot of this probably could have been avoided. And it doesn't necessarily make the reactions by those law enforcement officers wrong, but it probably made them unnecessary to begin with.
Do you find any irony in seeing the left trying to get conservatives to be on their side in regards to the fact that he had a Second Amendment right?
Yeah, well, of course, right? I mean, it is a weird upside down thing where the left is defending his right to carry in Minnesota of all places. But it is weird, I think, to me that, obviously, from what we've seen, the gun was, in his back, holstered in his back of his pants there. But they took it off of him. But how does he, I guess if you've got like 5 or 6, guys on this man and he's on the ground and he's face down, like, at what point do they assume that he is shooting that gun when it goes off to begin with? I mean, like, I've not watched every video there is out there, so maybe, I'm missing something. But I just think that, they've created a situation where they've put these law enforcement officers in untenable situations where these things are more likely to happen. They really set it up so that it is.
Close friends. She joins us every Tuesday and Thursday here on the Wake Up America show, and you can follow her on X at Rare Camellia. Camellia, this conversation is about to take a hard right turn. The friend, our mutual friend on X, Jeremy Kaufman, I've honestly have really been identifying very strongly with him these days.
I've noticed that.
This is something of an internal controversy. Both Jeremy Kaufman and I have been having screenshots posted to Reddit. We've been the subject of frequent left libertarians attack recently. we are reaching out to Chase Oliver, for example, who's been coming after me pretty hard to try and book him on the show to see if he would like to debate immigration with us. But Jeremy Kauffman is actually saying something not very nice about Ron Paul, for example, this morning on X, because Ron Paul is coming out saying, sort of bemoaning the tragedy of the death of this ICU nurse, Alex Pretty. Now, I consider myself something of a reasonable man in many ways. Some people consider me to be a normitarian, but I don't know that anyone could look at the murder of Charlie Kirk or the attempted assassination of Donald Trump twice and not think that, at times, any normal man must feel the urge to raise the black flag, spit on his hands, and begin slitting throats. So are we supposed to really cry? Are our hearts really supposed to bleed for the people who are committing suicide by cop in order to prevent lawful federal agents acting in their constitutional duties to protect Americans from taxpayer frauds and scams and illegal aliens? Am I to shed a tear? Am I to empathize, Camellia? Tell me, must I cry for the death of the communists, the ones who are trying to kill us and destroy our way of life, who would love to see us hang? Must I empathize, Camellia?
You could empathize or not, completely up to you. It's a free country, so to speak. However, I think there's a danger in getting to the point where, saying, whether or not somebody deserves something and whether it should have happened, I think can be two different things. Like if they're putting themselves, much like the other woman, who was shot, like they put themselves in situations that, given the history of what's been going on so far, like you have to know that you're stepping into a tinderbox and that there is just a higher likelihood that things are going to go south. And especially if you are, vocal and if you are, physically interacting with law enforcement in these situations and putting yourself basically in harm's way. But I think it's a very fine line to where we need to be careful that we're not saying that they are wrong for doing those things when the right has done those things as well. I mean, you cannot look at the January 6th protests and assume, otherwise. Like there's just too much video footage of people who are actually doing violent property destruction type of things in that incident. But you will very rarely hear, hard right MAGA type people, acknowledge those very real things. And so it's not to say that everybody there was doing those things, but it happens. And I think it's the flip side of that is what we see happening as well now. So I do think that we have to be careful, I guess what we celebrate as far as, the outcomes in these situations, because are they being stupid and putting themselves in a bad situation? Absolutely. Right. Are they celebrating something that is illegal and detrimental to our country and illegal immigration? Absolutely. But I think that the way that we like, if we are a country of law and order, we're not a country of just, putting marshals in the streets and shutting cities down whenever they can be handled in a different way. And I think that very much matters how you go about something, which is why they're bringing Tom Homan in. And this is a man who's been in this business for a long time. He has had reportedly, severe disagreements with Kristi Noem. He was given a medal by Barack Obama for his work in immigration and deportations of all things. So he's been in multiple administrations on both sides and has done a good job. And I think that his are different, and we would see much different outcomes if that had been what we've been doing all along.
I am deeply conflicted. I am fighting an internal battle in recent months over this immigration question, where the liberty movement is in the United States, where it's going. My brother Justin and I were talking about this crisis in Minnesota and Minneapolis. And you were saying earlier, this is what made me think of it, that you think it's dangerous for me to celebrate the death of communists who commit suicide by cop, who are throwing themselves into meat grinders, the people who wish to kill me. And I'll tell you, I really am. I have a deep internal struggle between two sides of my nature. But here's what Justin said to me the other day. He says, now is the time for good men to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Now is the time for good men to be dangerous. There's certain lines that I think you have to draw. You have to draw bright lines sometimes. And I think that we have had a level of permissiveness in society that we saw in 2020, Camelia, when they were burning the streets down and when local police were fleeing from protesters. Trump and Walz speaking yesterday, the arrangement that Trump won, the whole point was to get the local law enforcement to do the job of policing the local miscreants and problems while the feds do their actual job of enforcing enforcing immigration crimes. Now, when it comes to the proper role of law enforcement, the proper role of law enforcement should be that the local cops take care of the locals and the feds take care of the illegals. That's how it's supposed to work. But it was the breakdown in law and order that Tim Walz and Jacob Frey and Ilhan Omar may have contributed to in certain degrees. Many of these are government officials who are in these signal chats. Some of them are even in the Walz administration that are coordinating what I think amounts to a criminal conspiracy. So libertarians, I see, are trying to conflate this, trying to make it seem as if this is the feds versus we the people. As like I see this a lot from the gay race communist wing of the libertarian movement. And they're much bleeding hearts. I saw this very much from the Gary Johnson days. They don't have the stomach to enforce any laws at all whatsoever. The only thing that is a crime in libertarian world are thought crimes against the non-aggression principle. That's the only crimes for which the punishments are most severe. Do you see what I'm saying? Are you in agreement with my feelings?
I mean, yeah.
You sense my conflict. I mean, help me to draw this poison out, perhaps, if you see a poison in me.
Well, I will say that, I mean, I have that internal conflict as well. And I don't think I think that communism, socialism need to be stringently called out in this country and not tolerated. Now, are we a country of, the freedom to have these ideas discussed and debated? Yes. I mean, that's foundational to, what our country is built on. However, we have kind of gotten to a point where we have let those things become a pervasive influence within the government and also within our education system. And so we've set ourselves up to fail in a lot of ways. And the reality is we see this most that happens. I've had this discussion with a couple of the legislators here, from time to time, because it's like, when you talk about local control versus, the state's authority versus, the federal authority and such. And when we talk about, for example, local control like Minnesota or Minneapolis, right, versus the state and whatever, like in Missouri, we have like St. Louis and Kansas City, who have very liberal policies and liberal administrations. And the question is always, where do you draw the line to step in? But the truth is that, as someone pointed out to me, is that it is your local municipalities in these cities who become very liberal, and it infects the rest of the state and starts to drive the ship. And so I think we've seen that, too, in Minnesota with Minneapolis. And, and a lot of people, I think, who used to be, even in the rural areas of Minnesota, who used to be like blue dog Democrats, who have just kind of bought into this line and have just gradually accepted it. And then, even if they disagree with it now, you can't turn the ship around because your big cities are running the whole thing. So I do think that we have to have a line and we have to draw that line. One of the things, I saw somebody say the other day is you every once in a while when things get this bad, you need a sledgehammer. Trump is that sledgehammer. But the problem is you can't, the pendulum swings so hard that's the danger in it, is that in response to the sledgehammer, it swings so hard to the right and toward authoritarianism that the possibility is the reaction is going to swing very hard all the way to the other side. And I think that's where the danger in this is, and it's something that we have to guard against. And I mean, it's messy. Like none of it's going to be perfect. None of it's going to fit my ideal of what I would like to see happen. But I do like to see things where even Trump has not said that. He said he doesn't know if he could defend that shooting, right? I really appreciated that he said that because I think that people need to hear that. And then the fact that he talked with Tim Walz and he said that, Tom Homan was going to talk with Walz and they had found common ground and we're going to get this sorted out. Like those are the things that we really need to see. And I think especially as things have escalated to this point, that this is a good response from the Trump administration and what we needed to see, like as a country, because you have a lot of people who are not necessarily leftists per se, but are kind of in that independent middle who are getting turned off by a lot of this, whether it's reality or perception. Like perception becomes reality. And so I think that's why I think the messaging part of this is so important.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. And the DHS head and director of the FBI, they need to get their Second Amendment messaging down pat because they really screwed the pooch when it came to that. So, Camelia, anything?
Maybe this is why Dan Bongino left.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Camelia, anything else that you want to share with our audience before we let you go today?
The only thing I will leave you with is at a very local state level for Missouri. If you are in Jefferson City and you would like to help us out early tomorrow morning with testifying in support of eliminating the state income tax, let me know. Give me a message.
Thank you, Camelia Peterson. We appreciate all that you're doing to help support the liberties of the good people of Missouri. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Is there anything we can do to meet the Trump administration, at least part of the way, to try to turn this temperature?
Well, first of all, it's not a serious attempt, and the Attorney General sent that in. I would thank the local folks and Commissioner Snell. Thank you to you and your team over there. In that letter, they talked about, you need to hand people over who are in your jails. They're taking credit for people that we've had in jail for a long time. We always hand them over, and the Commissioner very clearly. So they're lying. They're lying. This has nothing to do with fraud. As the Attorney General said, they're not sending us forensic accountants. And these are things that have been we're dealing with now and have been for quite some time. So look, it's not a serious attempt to get at this. The way to fix this is get these folks out of here. We've continued to work with them. They asked us for these numbers. We provided them. We continue to show, and they're not serious. And look, I think everybody understands what the last request was, totally unrelated to anything on the voter files. This is, again, as the Attorney General said, Donald Trump telling everybody that the election was rigged, who started all this nightmare for America, has nothing to do with it. And I would just give a pro tip to the Attorney General. There's 2 million documents in the Epstein files we're still waiting on. Go ahead and work on those.
What a putz. What a putz. Where's the money, Lebowski? Thanks so much for tuning in to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. If you haven't already, please click the like button. Click the like button, and if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America Show, click the follow button as well. We'd love to have you be a regular guest. This show's schedule is Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, so be a regular guest, and make sure you come back and join us every morning, 5 days a week. Fridays are special. We call them Freedom Family Friday. That's when I introduce my smoking hot, sweetheart, redheaded libertarian wifey. She joins me on the show, and my brother Justin sometimes too. We've raised $82 towards the $100 bonus goal for today, so click that little cash button that you see. Drop 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, $100,000 even if you want. $1 million. Put it to good use over here. Build an army of libertarians. We'll be glad to have you become a regular guest, though, totally free, just by clicking the like button and the follow button. So if Salem Poor Music, if this is your first time here today, we hope you'll click that follow button and come back and join us. Mylene Salabaria will be joining us live here in less than 5 minutes. We're going to go to commercial break because I don't think we're not quite at the bonus content. Only like 18 more bucks will unlock the bonus content so you can watch a documentary, mini documentary. If we raise that money during this commercial break, I'll switch over to the documentary. And then Mylene Salabardi talking about the fall of Cuba when we return. It's the Wake Up America Show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John?
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Well, while you've been watching the smoke clear in Minneapolis, a massive geopolitical domino is teetering just 90 miles off the American coast. Earlier this month, the world watched as U.S. forces seized Nicolas Maduro in Caracas. And in an instant, the lifeline that has sustained the Cuban regime for decades was severed. President Trump didn't stutter when he posted, "No more oil or money for Cuba. Zero." We're seeing reports that Havana is now so desperate, they're buying fuel from Togo, Africa, just to keep the lights on for a few hours a day. Mexico is pulling back under pressure from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and the naval blockade is tightening. Analysts are saying the probability of the regime's collapse in 2026 is now at 100%. Joining us now to tell us if we're finally witnessing the acceleration of the inevitable is the brilliant Cuban refugee herself, Ilhan Omar. She's been tracking the purges in the Cuban military and the rising civic resistance on the island. Ilhan, host of the upcoming show, Cafecito Libre, right here on the Wake Up America show. Welcome, or right here on the For Liberty Network. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me again. Austin, is a pleasure. And yes, I know it's going to start turning into some sort of hashtag, but man, what a time to be alive. It is definitely coming, the time for Cuba, and it's coming like a wrecking ball that none of us could have anticipated the way that is unfolding. And we're here to see it.
God has given us the chance to live in interesting times, and we should take advantage of these interesting times. Ilhan, the lifeline from Caracas has officially been cut. 30 to 35,000 barrels of oil a day vanished overnight. 32 Cuban security personnel killed during the U.S. capture of Maduro. How much longer can the regime actually keep the lights on, literally?
Actually, they are not keeping the lights on right now as we are connected in this show. The latest news that I checked on in early this morning were from officials, Cuban Communist Party TV reporters saying that between 70-75% of the country is literally without power, and obviously the regime propaganda blames it on the crumbling infrastructure, the delays on repairs and whatnot. We're talking about things that they should have been fixing 40 years ago. The actual reason behind it is that they're short in nearly 75% of the oil supply that they should have in hand right there on the island to be able to keep at least the minimum 8 hours with power, 8 hours without power that has been the normal in the country for many years. So right now, they're not even there. Right now, obviously, only the highest peaks on the animal farms are the ones that have access to running water, electricity, and internet via Wi-Fi.
4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
Exactly, yes.
The Togo Hail Mary. So we're seeing reports of a tanker called the Mia Grace trying to bring oil all the way from Togo, Africa, only to change course at the last minute. So is this a sign that the international community is finally too afraid of Trump's zero oil policy to help Havana?
Well, I truly hope so. And for me and for many Cubans, both inside the island and outside in the Cuban diaspora living all over the world, it's finally a sign that somebody is taking the situation seriously. It was about damn time, if you ask me. It's been kind of like really delayed.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Mexico City. Suddenly, their oil exports to Cuba dropped from 22,000 barrels to almost nothing. So is Mexico finally realizing picking Cuba over the U.S. is a suicide mission for their own economy?
I hope they do. Mexico has more closest economic and trade relationships with the United States over like actual geopolitical important points that they will ever have with Cuba over just, communist politica bundungle theaters that they have had in between the Castro family running the country and whoever has been the leftist president of Mexico. And I think that even the Mexican population has been waking up into all the really critical situations and problems that they have in their country, only to see, exactly like it happened with Venezuela, that the natural resources that could be solving the situations in their country are being given away basically for free to a communist dictatorship. That's wrong, in any way you look at it.
Ilhan, I've been hearing rumors of massive unease within the Cuban military after that Venezuelan operation, that they are shaking in their boots. So are the men with guns in Havana starting to realize that this mirage of strategic immunity is evaporated and they could all be grabbed?
Absolutely. They know they are on the losing end of this equation, Austin, and I know we make fun of it because for us Cubans, after so many years, like making fun of our own misery has become, a very dark coping mechanism. But we are able to see all over social media, like the whole theater of ridiculous exercises with military equipment that is from Russia from the 70s and the 80s. The highest elites of the Cuban military are probably going through the initial phases of what the Trump administration and Marco Rubio did with Venezuela before any of this came out into the light of the public opinion. And yes, we made the joke that, their orders of the pens and adult diapers must have been, getting high. So those, having a stock investments in that type of company, this is your golden opportunity. Go for it. I think that the whole military preparation, these old declarations of the Cuban party that we are in option zero and we need to get ready for, the American invasion. This is not a message for the United States Army, because they know that the military forces of this country, if Venezuela took 2 hours, it's going to take 20 minutes and 10 Lunchables to be done in Cuba. So all this stupid theater is not for the Americans, it's not for Marco Rubio, and it's not for President Trump. Do you know for whom it's targeted? It is targeting the Cuban population. We're talking about a communist regime that has been sustaining in power basically on force and repression and hunger. And they are doing all these shows, like the little electricity and the little power that they have. Think about it. They're using it to broadcast on the national TV all this stupid military preparation with all this rusted old equipment, with all these, overweight people that are in the ministry's high positions demonstrating how they can use all these relics that should be in a museum. That message, Austin, is for the Cuban population. That's a subliminal message that is telling Cubans, if you dare to take on the streets and support what President Trump and Marco Rubio are doing, we're getting the tanks against you. They did it. We did it in 1994 when the Maleconazo happened under Fidel Castro's orders, and they did it on July 11, 2021, when the younger generations of Cuba took out the streets again. So again, it's like a ridiculous act for anybody that is looking at Cuba from the outside, but the message is very targeted to keep the repression and the iron fist on top of every single Cuban on the island. And it's that message of telling them, don't dare to get out, because we have all the guns, we have all the military equipment. The AK-47 might be rusted and old, but they're still going to kill you.
Oh, God, damn. Okay, so I just have to pat myself on the back for a moment for discovering this incredible talent. Mylene Salabaria will host a show on this network, the For Liberty Network, Cafecito Libre, coming soon. Mylene, you spent your childhood, your early life on the island of Cuba. You fled Cuba. You made it to the United States. You came for freedom. You came for liberty. But is there some small part of you that remembers the little girl in Cuba? Do you ever dream of one day returning to the island and seeing old friends, old family members, people, and being able to go there and travel there safely in a free Cuba? Do you ever think about that day?
Of course, obviously. I think that anybody that, left a totalitarian regime or escape a country like Cuba to build a new life from the scratch always holds that deep, in our hearts. Whether it is going to be a full move or right away or this and that, I think it's going to depend on the person. I think that, for example, my parents' generations, the generations of Cubans that initiated the diaspora in the United States, especially those people that left in the 60s, the 70s, many passed away in exile without even being able to go back and see the house or the neighborhoods where they used to live before. Many of us mind this kind of Gen X in the middle, sandwich into all of that. We have lost grandparents, family members, this and that, and we have not even been able to go back and attend their funeral services. You have younger generations with a different mentality, that it is these Cubans that since they were born, they didn't even get the golden goose era of the Soviet Union pipeline like I did when I was younger. So for them, the detachment is probably even stronger. I do think about going back, but I'm still kind of undecided in the sense that now in this time and era of the internet, you can have immediate information. You can see pictures, this and that. My grandmother's house in Juana in Pinar del Rio is completely destroyed. It's in ruins. It's just like an empty lot. The schools and the neighborhoods where I used to live with my friends in middle school and high school are also buildings that are falling down. The entire country is a giant trash pile in the streets without running water, without sewer water. People are dying talking of diseases that are caused because you don't have enough nutrition, because you don't have running water, clean running water, and because you don't have sewer services. I mean, we're talking about Africa in the 1900s. That's what we're talking about now. So I don't know. I think that I will have to see many, many things unfold first for me to decide to go back. But definitely it has to be after the communist dictatorship is out of power. Because needless to say, I have made a communication careers of exposing the failure of communism in Cuba. So I'm pretty sure I am already more than 1 or 2 blacklists of the higher elites of the Cuban communist. So I won't take that risk.
Probably not a good idea, unless you've got plenty of armed guards.
No.
You know, I'm really thrilled to be working with you these days, Mylene. I think you're such a unique talent, and I've been, you know, pitching the network to investors and to donors and fundraising like crazy, trying to build as much institutional support. If somebody would sign up to donate $5 a month, you know, I'm taking it, so that we can have a powerful network, so that we can spend money on advertising, do all the things that are necessary for us to succeed. Because I want you, Mylene, I see you as a potential conduit to South America, Central America. I see you as a potential conduit for Cuba Libre. I see you as a potential conduit for our people here who have been with me for the last 3 years to come together and do something very special. And that is to hopefully, in some sense, import Javier Milei's Argentine brand of liberty to the United States, because it's a winning form of libertarianism. And we are struggling here in the United States with the American liberty movement because it doesn't seem to know how to fight communism very effectively. You seem to understand how to fight communism effectively. Talk to us a little bit about what you plan to do with your show, Cafecito Libre, when it debuts here. We're looking at a schedule of Tuesdays and Thursdays, right around noon, right around lunchtime, a new live show. What kind of interviews are you going to have? Will you be speaking in Spanish? Give us an upcoming preview of what you plan to do with your new show, Cafecito Libre.
Well, Austin, the whole overall idea is to create a bridge not only with communication and being able to broadcast in both languages. Yes, part of the shows are going to be in English and Spanish. Like I always tell my friends, I have a PhD and get in trouble talking about politics, not only in English, but also in Spanish. So that's like the whole concept. And it would be to bring like a very, simple, minimal space to have these conversations about the intersection of culture, politics, and everything that has to do with the freedom-oriented movement between Latin America and the United States. What I can tell you for sure, and what I can tell your audience, is that it's going to be a completely and unapologetic anti-communist, freedom-first lens, the way that we approach the topics and the conversations we're going to be having. I think it's crucial in this moment, and for whatever alignments we have in this planet at this time too. Even the case of Venezuela and Cuba being freed of the communist joke is going to be a great opportunity, literally a great market opportunity to put out this type of conversations and shows, because I think once that we improve that communications between the classical liberal and the libertarian movement in Latin America, using the example of President Javier Milei, like you said, and hopefully bringing that communication to the liberty movement in the United States is going to be mutually beneficial. I think the United States liberty movement needs a very serious jumpstart, like with the biggest battery that you can get out of the truck, and help people, land in the ground in ways that we can sustain and defend the greatest experiment in individual freedom that we have had in this world for the 250 years that we're going to be celebrating in 2026.
Mylene, we are going to become such a powerhouse. You and me working together. Javier Milei is going to be reposting clips from your show every single day to his millions of followers. I can see it. We're going to do so many incredible things for liberty in this country. I can't wait. And I just have to say thank you to people like T-Mill22. She just donated $20 in the live chat. I hope you guys are just as generous with Mylene when she starts her show. We haven't set an official launch date just yet. We have an idea in our heads, but you will be seeing this show latest by spring, but we're looking at moving it up because, well, Mylene, if Cuba falls, we got to get you on. You got to go.
We gotta get
live.
on board.
We got to go live.
Yes, and by now we know that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And like I said, it's coming in the middle of the road like a Mack truck that doesn't care what is going to blow away.
There we go. Every protester in Minneapolis. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Mylene, it must be hard, though, speaking of the domestic stuff, it must be hard fleeing communism and seeing these American school kids, embracing communism, calling themselves Marxists, Leninists, and they're the children of their trust fund babies. I mean, what is it like coming to the United States and seeing these idiots supporting communism?
It's extremely difficult. It is extremely difficult. I remember when I first came to the state, when I was younger, I would get like so enraged. Like I would be literally going like Cuban nuclear on them. It's like, not that I have stopped doing that much, but let's say that I have just learned to count my fingers before I open my mouth with things like that happen. And the change or the switch is that I have been able now to understand that, like you said, they are trust fund hippies, tree huggers, champagne socialists born in the comfort of the first world, whether it's Europe, the United States, you name it. The point is that these people that support any form of collectivism or government control over your life, they are asking for their own demise because they have never had to endure it the way that we Cubans, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Chinese people, Korean have had. So it's very easy I always use the example in Colorado because it's a state where I lived for many years. It's very easy to defend Fidel Castro, the fallacy of the free education, the fallacy of the free healthcare, the fallacy of, the government is my friend and is going to take care of all my needs and the state is always going to get my back, from the comfort of your $1 million house in Boulder, Colorado, while you're driving, a 2026 high-end Range Rover or Mercedes. You don't have to live it the way we did. And that's why it's so easy for you to defend something like that. So to that kind of people, I always pose this premise. I always tell them, you have absolutely, you are the progressive radical left in this country, aren't they the ones that are always defending, the life experience, and I am speaking from my life experience and you cannot challenge it. Then I just kind of like literally play dumb and made my Sofia Vergara accent in English even worse on purpose. And then I tell them, okay, that's great. So you are challenging my life experience. Let me make a proposition. Why don't you trade places with my cousins, my nieces, and my nephews in Cuba? Trade places and go and live there for a year, not as a tourist, not as an American diplomat, not as a university professor doing an exchange trip, not as a tourist, stay on that reality part of the island that is only for those who go and pay in dollars. No, move there to the house where I used to live. Move there and live with 12 hours without power and 12 hours without electricity and water, like one of my nephews sent me a message yesterday. Go and live in the rationing book like I did. Go and see your parents and your grandparents, fading away in hospitals where they don't have medications or equipment to treat them. And only if you survive that, then you can come back and resume this conversation with me. Until you do that, you have no business in this sitting area at all.
People are really enjoying the accent in the chat. Did she say hippies or did she say hibbies? Hibbies. We're gonna
B as in Peter.
Yeah. I've been making the joke earlier that, people are very nostalgic for the 1990s when we used to be able to tease each other. Now, Mylene, only like conservatives and right-wing type people can make jokes like that here in the United States. Because if I had said that to somebody who identified as Latinx, there would be no end to hell I would pay.
Don't get me started with the Latinx.
Wait, one more thing. I know this is off topic. But yesterday, Steph and I were watching Sesame Street with our child, and they introduced a Latin character on the show, and they had no accent whatsoever. But when they said their name, they used it. They made it very Latin. So it was like Rosa, right? They rolled those R's. So do you ever get annoyed at like people who have no accent, but then all of a sudden when they say like Rosita, they add a little
it just makes. Yeah, I mean, the joke, right, itself, and it's on them, it's not on me. You know, I have been fortunate that a lot of people, you know, have said like totally, I don't know, off top things. I have the personality where I don't take it personally. You know, I don't think that I am like this super victim that needs to have everybody realign with the way they speak or anything like that. I just laugh because I realize that they have been in this closed bubble where their mind has not been able to expand to anything else beyond their tiny world where they were born and live, that I actually feel sorry for them. And then I just try to make a joke to it. I literally quote Sofia Vergara in Modern Family when people have given me weird stuff like that. I'm like, do you have any idea how smart I am in Spanish? It's like, do you really understand how hard is it to translate all the stuff in my head before I open my mouth? Like, come on. And when it has been cases that have been like really, really serious and offensive, it's like, it's a tagline that I have been practiced for years. I'm going to be honest about that. I do tell them, oh, you speak English because that's, you know, that's the only language that you speak. That's why you know, criticize mine with my accent or my lack of, you know, high-end, high-quality words or whatnot. I speak English because that's the only language that you speak. Dude, we're not the same.
Miley Salamaria. You've already got a bunch of new fans over in the chat. Mighty Megatron says, don't ever call us that commie shit slur. But I picture him saying, don't ever call us that commie shit slur, man. I'm Chicano on the inside. All right, Mylene, thanks for putting up with my bad jokes. So we're very excited for your new show, Cafecito Libre, coming on the For Liberty Network. We'll be making an announcement imminently about when that will occur. Mylene, is there anything else that you want to share or plug or, you know, just, you know, website, URL, X handle that you want to plug before we let you go?
Just really quick. Keep an eye on what we're putting together with the Cafecito Libre podcast. It's coming out. I'm super excited and terrified at the same time with this. So everybody, please bear with me. I am like a Gen X with some communist Cuba cost delays. So everybody, you know, get some patience with it.
I have been training Mylene in all of my ways of karate. I've taught her all my technical karate. And she's going to be a fantastic podcaster, don't you worry about it.
But it's very excited about it, especially the fact that we're going to be able to put, you know, both languages and try to tap into both markets at the same time. I will keep an eye on my X account. That's what most of the, you know, professional communications work comes in. Tomorrow, if anybody has some time and want to check the Expat Money Show website, I did a great interview with my friend Miguel Thorup. We talk about the situation that is happening in Cuba, what is coming in Latin America, and some of the possibilities that the domino effects might bring into it. I'm heading today to Colorado for an amazing event about school choice to speak and talk with children and teachers on why I do think that school choice is the only way for families like mine to achieve the American dream. No, not only ours.
Ours too. Hey,
but
we appreciate
ours
you.
family.
We appreciate you,
keep an eye, keep an eye on that. A lot of things are coming out this week, and like I said, on X is the usually is the fastest way to keep in touch with everything that's going on. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. We'll talk soon, all right, Mylene, and I'll send you I keep forgetting to send you that email. We'll book our trainings for this week. Have a good one.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye.
Last week, an undocumented immigrant who had been deported 5 times killed a 32-year-old woman, Kate Steinle, in San Francisco, a sanctuary city where local law enforcement does not enforce federal immigration laws. When you last ran for president, you supported sanctuary cities in light of this terrible incident. Does that change anything about your view on this?
Well, what should be done is any city should listen to the Department of Homeland Security, which, as I understand it, urged them to deport this man again after he got out of prison another time. You know, here's a case where we've deported. He ends back up in our country, and I think the city made a mistake. The city made a mistake not to deport someone that the federal government strongly felt should be deported. So I have absolutely no support for a city that ignores the strong evidence that should be acted on.
Interesting. We all celebrating Hillary Clinton there? Are we celebrating Hillary Clinton, or what changed with the Democrats?
There are those in the immigrants' rights community who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally with legal status, or at least ignore the laws on the books and put an end to deportation until we have better laws. And often this argument is framed in moral terms. Why should we punish people who are just trying to earn a living? I recognize the sense of compassion that drives this argument. But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. It would suggest to those thinking about coming here illegally that there will be no repercussions for such a decision. And this could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. And it would also ignore the millions of people around the world who are waiting in line to come here legally. Ultimately, our nation, like all nations, has the right and obligation to control its borders and set laws for residency and citizenship. And no matter how decent they are, no matter their reasons, the 11 million who broke these laws should be held accountable.
Wow, there, that's fascinating. Sounds like Donald Trump. Sad. Yes, now it's time to say goodbye. We've covered a lot of ground today. If there's one thing that I want you guys to take away from the broadcast, the era of the Sanctuary scam is officially hitting a brick wall. We followed the money from the $9 billion fraud rings hauling out Minnesota directly into the bank accounts of the Squad and the terror cells of East Africa. We've seen the receipts on Ilhan Omar's $44 million net worth explosion, and we've watched as the DOJ finally dropped the RICO hammer on the signal-coordinated mobs that thought they could hunt federal agents with impunity. We also stood our ground on the Second Amendment. We took a blowtorch to the gaslighting from Kristi Noem and Kash Patel. We reminded this administration that you cannot claim to defend the Constitution while labeling lawful gun owners as domestic terrorists. The adult is in the room now. Tom Homan is on the ground, and the mission is clear. Get the criminals out, leave the patriots alone. And thanks to the brilliant Mylene Salabaria, we now know that the fire of liberty isn't just burning here. It's spreading 90 miles off our coast as the Venezuela oil pipeline dries up and the Trump administration squeezes the Castro regime. We are watching the literal acceleration of the inevitable. Cuba is teetering, and for the first time in 60 years, a free Havana isn't a dream, it's a forecast. As you head out to start your day, check your bank accounts. That $1,000 tax refund surge, it's real, it's historic, and it's a direct result of taking the power away from bureaucrats and giving it back to the people who actually do the work. We appreciate every single one of you who stays in the vanguard with us. Your financial support, whether it's grabbing a bag of founding flavors or joining us in Boston this May or making a contribution like Joni Rankin and many others did this morning to unlock the bonus content. That's what is keeping this show on. That's what's making everything happen. Every time you do that, you're creating an outcome that will result in more content, more documentaries, more mini documentaries, more shows. If you all had not supported me financially in the last 3 years, this audience, there would be no Cafecito Libre coming up, right? There would be no Javier Milei retweets, no Javier Milei Afuera sneakers, right? I did a little bit, but you guys supported me, and I'm very, very grateful. Don't forget, exit through the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. Use your Peterson's Patriots discount code. You've earned it. I'm Austin Peterson. Stay free, stay armed, and remember, the truth doesn't need a sanctuary. It just needs an audience.
Many Republicans are now openly embracing ideas from the progressive playbook. Call them Depublicans. For some years now, conservatives who believe in free markets and limited government have been labeled rhinos, Republicans in name only, as GOP liberals or moderates have historically been known. The MAGA movement flings this term as an insult and a signal that respecting the realities of supply and demand instead of endorsing price controls is a character flaw. But after watching the last few weeks unfold, it's hard not to ask this. If believing in markets makes you a rhino, what exactly do we call Republicans who now openly embrace ideas lifted from the playbooks of Sens? Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren? How about Depublicans? The gradual transformation has been taking place since around the beginning of President Donald Trump's first term and is now unmistakable. With a few notable exceptions like taxes, deregulations, and the occasional bombing, those in power seem to behave like Democrats in Republican clothing. They have adopted many of their counterparts' instincts, rhetoric, and policy tools, including industrial policy, trade protectionism, corporate scapegoating, price controls, ownership restrictions, and discretionary federal intervention. In just the past few weeks, Trump has floated, and senior members of his administration have defended, 4 policy proposals that would have been loudly denounced as socialist overreach had they come from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. And for good reason. Progressives champion similar big government policies. Start with the proposal to ban institutional investors from buying single-family homes. This is not conservative policy. It's the federal government deciding who should be allowed to buy property based on identity rather than on behavior. It substitutes political discretion for voluntary market exchange and treats ownership itself as suspect. The proposal rests on the false premise that allowing corporate investors to own and subsequently rent out homes is a major driver of high home prices. The practice is supposedly diverting capital away from construction, limiting the number of homes changing hands, and crowding out owner-occupiers. The data say something much different. Depending on the source, institutional investors own only about 1 to 2% of U.S. single-family homes. Estimates from the American Enterprise Institute and Housing Wire show that even at the upper bound, this share is far too small to plausibly explain the 50% nationwide increase in home prices since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Then there is Trump's suggestion that Washington control executive compensation at defense and aerospace companies, and even prohibit returning capital to investors through dividends or buybacks. This is not the administration's first move toward taking an active role in private American companies. For all intents and purposes, it has nationalized the steel industry and taken equity stakes in 11 other U.S. companies, such as Intel and MP Materials. Trump is dissatisfied with the defense industry's performance. However, U.S. firms did not become the global leader by patriotic virtue alone. They did it with capital, incentives, and by rising to meet competitive pressure. If we treat them as a public utility, we'll end up with stagnation. Next comes the idea of ordering Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to purchase $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities, a kind of housing-specific version of the Federal Reserve's quantitative easing, in an effort to lower mortgage rates. Conservatives spent the last election cycle correctly explaining that subsidizing demand in a supply-constrained housing market only pushes prices higher. That logic doesn't change when the subsidy runs through government-sponsored enterprises jawboned by Trump. Manipulating mortgage rates without loosening supply is how you inflate bubbles, not how you make homes affordable. Finally, there's the proposed 10% cap on credit card interest rates. Price controls on unsecured credit don't make borrowing cheaper. They make it disappear for anyone deemed risky. When banks cannot price risk to certain borrowers, they stop lending to them. But borrowers don't stop needing credit. They just get pushed into far worse alternatives. What makes this moment so revealing is that these ideas are not musings or trial balloons. They're echoed and defended by the administration, promoted in the Senate by the Vice President, touted by legislators like Senator Josh Hawley, R-Mo, and increasingly normalized across the populist right. Don't be fooled by the replacement of progressive jargon with nationalist rhetoric. This economic crusade will harm the workers and non-rich it is supposed to help. It will raise prices by restricting supply, reduce market access by imposing controls, and replace opportunity with favoritism and discretion. Worse, it will erode the institutional foundations, capital markets, investment incentives, and predictable rules that enable long-run prosperity. If believing in free markets makes you a Reno, fine. But let's at least be honest. The GOP is not becoming more conservative. It's becoming more comfortable with Democrats' positions such as bans, controls, and government direction of private economic life. Republicans are becoming Depublicans.